All right, it is time for a top 10 list, which I haven't done for like years, and kind of like a book list, but more like an author list, but I don't have a card that says that. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm really excited to be here today to share with you my top 10 most read authors. Oh my gosh, this was so much fun to put together. I was inspired by a recent video by J.D. Archer, who talked about his most read authors, and I will put a link to his video up above and below for you to check out. And so after I saw this video, I went over to GoodReads and I sorted my titles by author, and I was just surprised, actually, for the most part, by some of the authors that came up. Some I knew that were going to be there, but a lot I didn't. And let's get this started. But actually, before, I did decide to add one qualifier to this, and that was I only included authors where I had read more than simply one series from them. So if I had read 8 books by one author, if I hadn't read anything but that one series, like 8 books in one series, then I didn't include them. I feel like to really understand the works of an author, I would have to dive into more than one series from them, or seek out more than one series from them. And so that's what I decided to do. And so these are the top 10 that I have read lots and lots of books from, and include more than one series. Of course, the first one feels a bit weird because all of the books sort of do feel like the same world, but they are 3 different series, and that is Kelley Armstrong. She is my number 10 with 5 books read. I've read Bitten, which is part of the Woman of the Otherworld series. I've also read the Darkest Powers trilogy and the first book in the Darkness Rising trilogy, and she's one that I definitely want to read more from. She writes urban fantasy, both adult, this is adult, and then the Darkness Rising and Darkest Powers are YA. I really enjoy the worlds that she creates, and I definitely meant to keep on with the Women of the Otherworld series. I think I got, like, when the TV series came out and I started watching it, and then I didn't know whether I should keep reading the books or keep watching the series or do it at the same time, and it just got like a little like whoa, and then so I haven't come back to her work. But I definitely think the Women of the Otherworld series definitely is like totally up my alley in terms of urban fantasy and paranormal romance and like witches and werewolves, and I don't know if there's vampires. There's probably vampires at some point, and like all of these amazing mystical beings and creatures and events and just wild stuff. And I do have the second book in this series. It is somewhere on these shelves, so at some point it will pop up. So that is number 10. At number 9, with 7 books read, I have Judy Blume, and this was one of the joyful surprises of this list, because I didn't think about that, because I haven't read a Judy Blume book since I was a kid, but man, did I read a lot of them, and did I really enjoy them, from Super Fudge to Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing, which are just sort of really great, just fun books, to more serious books like Tiger Eyes, or which gets more into like the YA. I guess most of her books are kind of middle grade, but I think the big one that a lot of people have read, including me, is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, which is a great preteen teen story of a young girl and going through the things that you go through when you're that age. And I think it was the first book that I read that was sort of like a realistic depiction of things, as opposed to something that was more sort of like fun or fantasy or not realistic. It really felt like a real person going through real things, and she just has a gift for that. So I'm really happy to see Judy Blume on this list, and I haven't tried any of her adult works. So if you have read any of her adult books and have enjoyed them, please let me know. I would love to continue to read Judy Blume, and I might have read more than 7. It was the ones that I remembered that I clicked off on GoodReads at someday when I decided to do that. Because yes, I read before the internet and before GoodReads. So anything older than 2010 is just sort of like as best as my memory remembers. So there you go. At number 8, with number 8, is Mr. Stephen King. Yes, the king of horror himself. Earlier this year I read Thinner and also The Running Man. When I was younger I read It. It was the first really big book that I had read. And at some point I wanted to read all of his works, but then I got to something and I was like, oh, I don't think so. I do like to dip in and out of his work. There has been a lot of good stuff. I did start to notice some trends, so I pulled back a little bit and started reading them so near each other, because I didn't know if I wanted to notice the trends that I was noticing. And actually one of my favorite books that he wrote is actually on writing. His nonfiction book about writing is excellent. is absolutely excellent. So Stephen King at number 8. At number 7 with 10 books read, we have David Eddings. Oh my goodness gracious, this is Wayback Machine for me. I read the two 5-book series from him, including The Belgorod, which starts with Pawn of the Prophecy, and I also read The Malorian. I can't remember if they're connected worlds or different worlds. The Belgrade is the one that really sort of sticks with me, and it really is a traditional epic fantasy story starting with a boy, a farm boy who is, going to be the one or whatever. So and I really enjoyed it. It's one that I've considered going back to and rereading, but I wonder if it's best left to memory. Not because I don't think it's well written. I think it's just sort of like the nostalgic warm fuzzy feeling factor I have of thinking about it might be better than rereading it. I'm not sure. Let me know. Do you reread childhood sort of favorites? I read these when I was quite young, and I really enjoyed them. And it was the first epic fantasy series and long, like more than one book series of fantasy that I read. I know for a lot of people, I think that was Lord of the Rings, but for me, it really was The Belgrade. At number 6 with 10 to slash 18 books read, and I actually don't have a physical copy. I think I still have them somewhere, but that is L.J. Smith, who wrote the Vampire Diaries series as well as the Secret Circle series. And this one gets a bit confusing because I think at least 8 of them are written by her, but 2 of the Vampire Diaries series books that I read, I'm not sure if they are. It got a little confusing in there because the CW had bought the rights to the books, and I don't know if it was a bit aggressive, I think, in terms of what they could do with the works. So I don't know if all of the books eventually were written by her, but also some of those books are included as one book, even though it's a 2-book bind up. So I've definitely read a lot that she has written. And I really enjoyed the Secret Circle books. I thought those were so much fun. They featured witches, and then of course the Vampire Diaries is, I think most people know what the Vampire Diaries is because of the show. And this was sort of when I was getting back into reading at some point and reading a fair amount of YA, and I just burned through her books like just so quickly and really enjoyed them. So that is number 6. Number 5, I have one of my favorite romance authors, and that is, or my favorite romance author probably, Michelle Willingham. These are the Forbidden Viking series. To Sin with a Viking, this is the first one that I read, and then To Tempt a Viking. But I have read so many series by her, or at least started so many series by her. I've started the Accidental series and the Secrets in Silk series and the Warriors of Ireland series and the McKeegan Brothers series and the McClintock clan. I really enjoy them. She writes historical romance, Vikings, some set in Ireland, some set in Scotland, and then I think I don't know if I dove into the Regency ones, and then some are Victorian. I think the Secrets in Silk is Victorian. So far I'm enjoying the Viking ones the best, as well as I'm really quite enjoying the McKeegan Brothers, which is medieval Ireland. So yeah, so many books, and she has so many books to enjoy, and she's still writing, so there's just going to be more and more and more, and 2 years down the line she is definitely going to be further up this list because I am actively reading her works. So yeah, that's Michelle Willingham. Then we have one of my other very, very, very favorite fantasy writers, and that is Jennifer Roberson, who wrote both the Tiger and Dell series, which starts with Sword Dancer, Tiger and Dell, and then also the Chronicles of the Shea Suli, which I would hazard a guess to say is probably my favorite fantasy series ever. It's an 8-book series that's got a fictional monarchy thing going on, as well as there is shapeshifters is the big theme, the big driving force for me. Most of the books follow someone who is a shapeshifter, and they have an animal companion called a leer, and they can transform into the same shape as their animal companion. And it is like just a really long arc through the ages, through the history, through the family's story, and there's of course a prophecy, because I think all most high fantasy or long arc fantasy series have a prophecy, and yeah, I love it, and I'm actually hoping to. Oh, this is the 4th bind up. This is actually 2 books. There's 8, and yeah, love them so so much. I think she really is my favorite from those. I think that really is my favorite. Although the Tiger and Dell is one of my favorite characters ever, 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 ever. So anyway, love those. I didn't finish that series though. I read a bunch of them and I didn't realize she had kept writing them again before the internet. And then number 3 is one of my current most favorite authors of urban fantasy, and that is Ilona Andrews, which actually is a husband and wife duo. And I have read both the Kate Daniels series as well as the Innkeeper Chronicles. I've only read 2 of the 3 Innkeeper Chronicles, but the Kate Daniels series I've read 18 books from. Oh, I forgot to say, Jennifer Roberson I've read 13 books. Michelle Willingham is 12. I think I forgot to say that. So Jennifer Roberson is 13, and Ilona Andrews is 20. And now I have to start saying it's actually 20 titles, because the Kate Daniels series is 9 books, the Innkeeper Chronicles is 3, of which I've read 2, so that makes it 11. Then we have an additional 9 that are companion stories, short stories, novellas. There's a companion novel in the Kate Daniels series. It is the one series that I will read everything I can get my hands on. I don't always go for that. I actually don't often go for that, and sometimes I even resent that when there are all these prequels or in-betweeners or supplemental stories or from the other perspective. I haven't read the Kern's point of view one. I'm not super interested in that, but I'll read it. I'll eventually read it. So, but yeah, the Kate Daniels is an urban fantasy current day set in a world where there is both magic and technology, but only one will work at a particular time, at a certain time. As in, when magic is working, technology works. When technology works, magic doesn't work. And she's at the beginning of the series, she's a mercenary. And I can't even talk about it because, as I said, I've read 9 books, and there's another 9 companion ones. I can't even remember super where it started, so I don't want to spoil it for anyone. I absolutely adore it. She's a really strong female character and just kicks a lot of butt, and I think there's one of the things I especially love about that book over some other urban fantasy and paranormal romance series is that there actually is really strong character development with other characters in the series. So her life changes, other people's life change. It isn't just we solve this mystery and go on to the next book. It's a long arc story. It is building to something, and that something is almost always the most important part of the plot of each of the individual books. Not necessarily the novellas and the companion stuff, but is always driving towards a bigger thing. Mostly, I think there might be 1 or 2 books that is about an isolated incident, but it's mostly driving towards a big epic something or other. And I'm really looking forward to the 10th book. I think it is going to be the final book. It was supposed to come out this year, but now it's been delayed till next year, which I'm fine with because I want it to be right. And I think it is going to be the last one. So anyway, love the Kate Daniels series. And the Innkeeper Chronicles is so much fun. It's sort of like a weird combination of science fiction and fantasy. Someone who runs an inn but has a symbiotic relationship with that inn, and there's like werewolves and there's like aliens, and it's just like totally out there, and I love it. I love it. Okay, we're on the final stretch here with the final 2 authors, and my second most read author, and this was a surprise, and it's really shocking that this was a surprise because it is currently one of my big active projects I've read 23 titles from. Tell me if you know it before it's coming. Shakespeare! Of course! Of course! I just hit the halfway point earlier this summer, and I am well on my way to reading all 38 titles by William Shakespeare. So, of course, active effort. Of course, those are going to be higher on the list. It's actually going to be, I can't believe it. It really feels like it's going to happen. My plan is to finish by the end of next year. And with the recent ShakeTube being announced, that'll get me through another 5 at least this year, which will leave me with 10 for next year. I think it's going to happen. It's really going to happen. And the last author, whom I actually was very surprised to see this which shouldn't be a surprise. But this, I think the surprise comes from the fact that I'm doing this by titles, not by novels. So at number one, with 47 titles read, is H.P. Lovecraft. Of course, I am working my way through the complete works of H.P. Lovecraft, and I'm 47 into, I think there's 62. My goodness, the one I'm reading right now is so long. I've been reading it forever, forever. And this really surprised me, and I was actually a little not terribly happy with this as a result, because I feel like some of his work is very questionable in terms of I don't think he was the most egalitarian person out there. And so I feel a little weirded out that my most read author is someone I don't feel like I would have been on the same page with in terms of ideas, and that's really strange. That said, a lot of his work I do really enjoy. It has really fascinating, big, mythic, wonderful, just out there ideas, and I really appreciate that. And actually, some of the ones that I've been really drawn to aren't necessarily ones that I hear people talking about, like Call of Cthulhu. I didn't super connect to, but I really like The Tomb and The Cats of Ulthur and The Quest of Iranon. The big mythic, but within themselves ones, the interconnected ones, I feel like I'm less getting them. So yeah, H.P. Lovecraft with 47. And if I continue and finish the complete works, I'll have read there's 63. I did skip one. There was one that I'm like, no, what you're talking about now is not okay. So I did skip one, and I might skip a couple more. But it feels like it'll be a challenge for anyone to outdo that. I don't know if anyone has more than 63 works out there. Ah, weird. So that was the really big surprise at the end of this tunnel. But there's definitely people that I'm going to continue to read more from: Ilona Andrews, William Shakespeare, Michelle Willingham, Stephen King, Kelley Armstrong. I definitely feel like I'm going to read more from them. So let me know, what are some of your most read authors? Do you have any recommendations for scaling some of these up or rolling some of these back? I would love to hear your thoughts. So there you go. Epic long video for top 10. And let me know, do you want to hear more top 10s or more top 5s? Top 5s are manageable, but 10 you get more in. If it's top 5, I'm always going to add honorable mentions. So maybe top 10s are the way to go. All right. Thank you for watching.